Today's video is sponsored by our good friends at Docking Bay 94, located in Boca Raton, Florida. Check us out on comicsandgames.com. Also, our friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, located in Melbourne, Florida. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Codename New to Bureau 2. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. It's been a month since we've done our comic pickup recap episode, and since we're winding down the month of September, I thought this would be a good time to share some books that I think that are noteworthy and, for your consideration as well. And as you see, I am sponsored by Docking Bay 94 right here in Boca Raton, Florida. A special shout out to John and the entire staff there at Docking Bay. First class. I mean, one of the things that I talk about in all these episodes is actually going to the comic shop and having that human interaction. I mean, when us GenXers, that's what we did. We used to ride our bikes or whatever to the comic shop and spend hours there looking at stuff, talking to friends. Well, the magic is still there, and I'm happy to see that. Just today, I was there, and there were so many people, talking about this, that, Star Wars, or, the Rambo movie, whatever. It's just, it's kind of like the bar for us nerds. So I think it's wonderful to be a part of this community. I'm still part of, my up in Sebastian and Melbourne, that community as well. But just, coming to this area and getting established here has been a wonderful experience. Everybody's been really nice and inviting. So without further ado, let's go look at what pickups, and I'm going to break it down to two sections because I often do vintage and I do current modern comics. So let's start with the vintage books that I picked up. And a lot of these, I post them on Facebook and Twitter. They've been doing really, getting a lot of response. So it's good to see that, hey, I remember that and I remember this. So that's kind of cool. So the first one, which will be featured in the next episode of Codename New to Bureau 2, is issue number 85. I'm just going to say that, and we'll talk more about this in an upcoming issue. The next one that has generated a lot of attention is Wolverine number, is there a glare? There we go. Wolverine number 50. There we go. And this is a Larry Hama. Everyone, when they think Larry Hama, they immediately think G.I. Joe. But not so. He had a very good run in Wolverine as well as Bucky O'Hare. It just shows, that's the whole reason why, I started the channel. Is a lot of people talk about Larry in the past tense. And I'm like, he's still kicking butt, with the new G.I. Joe series. But, this has allowed me to go back and look at some of his other works besides G.I. Joe. And the first thing that came when I read this issue was how much stuff that all the Wolverine, the Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, how much they took from Larry Hama's Wolverine. And the sad thing is, he doesn't get the credit he rightfully deserves. So make note of that all this all the Wolverine stuff that we enjoyed with Hugh Jackman, good portion of it comes from Larry Hama as well. So that's something to note. I'm also continuing with the Jim Balance run on Catwoman. This is Catwoman number 2, and this is Catwoman number 0 from 1993 and 1994. And I've said this from the start. Jim Balance is a controversial artist, but I think it's great because here's a guy that basically threw up a big middle finger to everyone. Says, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to write the way I draw the way I want to draw. I don't care what anybody says. This whole SJW nonsense that we are like, in the midst of, this guy doesn't give a rat's patootie about all of that nonsense. I mean, he does what he does, and you have to, tip your hat off to that type of mentality. That's the American way, in my opinion. Do what you want and be happy. So, but again, the thing I've said is, like, we always praise the Jim Lees, the McFarlanes, the Frank Millers, but I think that Jim Balin's artwork should have been up there with all the other iconic 80s artists. Just his artwork in Catwoman is just amazing. So it's been good to go back in time and look at those. The next one is G.I. Joe Special Missions number 24. This is the Ladies' Day, written by Herb Trimpe, who is usually the artist for G.I. Joe. So in this issue, he's actually the writer. So I thought that was intriguing. And, the story of all the girls from G.I. Joe, working together, that's pretty cool too. So issue number 24. I'll talk all about the G.I. Joe stuff in a future episode. So, but again, I just wanted to show what I picked up. And since we're still on G.I. Joe, issue number 266, which will have the comic recap in probably the next episode of Codename. So look for this in the next video that I'm going to post up. But issue 266 starts the Cobra Hunt 10-issue story arc. I'm just going to say that because it is, I don't want to give away anything, but it's starting off with the bang, so it's pretty good, and it's going to be interesting. And this is going to be a very pivotal series as far as current modern G.I. Joe story as it goes. So if you're not able to get it, please follow along with the channel. This is going to, if you've been away from G.I. Joe, you're going to see why G.I. Joe kicks ass. Like, basically why you should come back to G.I. Joe. Forget about Star Wars. Alright, the next one was Impulse. Batman, The Last Night on Earth, book number 2. Oh my god. This is crazy. I can't tell you how I was just like, it felt like going on a trip or whatever, but this book is absolutely insane. And I was pleasantly surprised because that Heroes in a Crisis that happened a couple months ago, that was terrible. And so I've been shying away from Marvel and DC, as you guys all know. But this is the DC Black label, and I'm just blown away how entertaining. I gotta go get book 1, but book 2 has been, I was blown away. So this is highly recommended. Alright, and the next one, you remember I talked about Arrow, like I think it was beginning of September, we discussed about Arrow. Well, the second issue came out for Arrow, and I picked it up. Again, this is, I picked it up because of the artwork. I mean, if you're a fan of the Japanese RPGs, like, what is it, like the Final Fantasy type of stuff, that immediately, it just pops, like, and it catches your eye because it's beautiful. And it's all like, it's a Japanese group that does this, and then they port it to the US. But it's basically a storm with one ability, wind. I mean, that's all she can control is wind. But the first one was interesting, so I picked up the second one. I don't know yet. I mean, it could be good. It can't. I just haven't really put my finger on it. But again, it's just different. So what the hell? Like, I'm going to give that a shot. And again, like, the artwork on this is phenomenal. So just appreciating the artwork in itself is worth getting this book. and appreciating. The other one I covered in the last episode on the channel, and that is G.I. Joe issue number 1 of the Wanted for Crimes Against Cobra. So this is supposed to be, if you haven't watched it, go back, watch that episode. It's basically a Cobra taking over the world. And G.I. Joe is no more than a resistance group. So far, it's been, it's different. I'm going to say that. It's not the same G.I. Joe story that we all grew up and accustomed to. So in that sense, it's interesting. But again, this is SJW all over it. I'm sorry to say. Yeah. So if those who have read it will know what I'm talking about. But this one is a SJW G.I. Joe comic book in essence. So I don't know. The interesting, as I pointed out in that episode, is what will happen issue 2 to 4, whether it will continue, because the first issue, the sales are always going to be up, and they are from the feedback I've been getting. What's going to happen between issues 2 and 3? And if it's a dramatic downward slope, then basically the head's on the chopping block for this book. I'm sorry to say. All right, the next one is a pleasant surprise, and our good friend David Avallone, who we had on the channel, his other title, the Betty Page comic series, and John Royal does the artwork. So immediately when I saw this, I was like, hey, that's John Royal's artwork, and sure enough, I picked it up. But I mean, a beautiful cover. I mean, John's art is amazing. So this fantasy type of genre, I think he nails it. So, and the story is actually, David Avallone wrote it. So again, I like how he writes for the fans of that particular character or genre. Like it seems like it's not trying to make everybody happy. He's trying to do justice to the character, and that pleases the fan base. Even though I'm not a Betty Page fan, I don't know much, but the story was engaging, fun, and those are the two major requirements in any comic series. So Betty Page by David Avallone, definitely you should check this out as well. So we're going to stick with David Avallone, and of course you guys know the latest issue of Elvira. This is the Virgin cover, so this is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, number 9. And we're kind of, I don't want to go too much into it right now, but we're kind of done with her going through like the levels of hell in the last 8 issues. So now she's starting a new adventure. And again, David Avallone. I mean, the dialogue and stuff that he has, it feels like it's actually coming from Elvira. So it is hilarious, it is fun, and that's why I've been a big fan of Elvira since this comic was announced, and I've been following it religiously. I mean, it's like G.I. Joe and Elvira, the 2 things I will get every month. All the other things I'll try, but I've been consistent with that because it's been that damn good. And, if you're a Gen Xer or whatever, you'll appreciate this because it's not trying to be politically correct, but it's funny, witty, and it's just a lot of fun. That's the point. The next one is another title that I've been talking about. Pleasant surprise. I wasn't a big fan, but I am becoming one, and that's the Vampirella series. And it's dark, but it's not like, it's not SJW type. It's dark, but it is such a good, interesting, read that it's fun. It's just one of those things that, you don't want it to. It's stimulating in the sense that she goes through all of this stuff and how she
it's just not cliche. It's not like, you know, cheesy or whatever, but it is like a very sophisticated, to the point, but it just, the artwork has been great, and I just think it's a series that if you're not following, you should definitely pick it up and give it a try, because it's been one of those pleasant surprises as well. And the last one is, again, Jim Balin's Tarot. His Tarot Witch of the Black Rose. It's the Halloween edition. So if you're having witches and goblins and stuff, you gotta pick up a book with witches. The stigma of this book is what, again, like I said it about Jim Balin earlier, the stigma with this book is ridiculous. I mean, we're all adults and stuff. It's just, is it fun? Is it, you know, that whole witch and like sorcery and stuff? I mean, it's something I'm not, you know, it's just intriguing to me. So yes, you know, the illustrations, whatever. I mean, it's art to me. It's not like, you know, but at the same time, it's just, I respect the guy. I think he's a wonderful artist. And I just like the fact that he does whatever the hell he wants. And that's pretty damn respectful. And so basically that's this month's September 2019's comic pickups and little mini recaps of what there is out there. Again, there's probably several other titles that I haven't covered, but those are ones that caught my eye, and they might catch yours as well. So I hope I was helpful to you. And once again, I'd like to thank Docking Bay 94 for their help. This cool t-shirt. I remember to check out their website. I'll have it on the link below. You can definitely place your orders. And there's my cats. So some things don't change. That's cool. I always have a cat coming in and disrupting stuff. So it's good to know that even in this place, that's consistent. But again, going back, if you'd like to order anything, check out their website. They do ship in the 48 continental United States. And once again, this is Shabu Are You signing off.